Hello, I'm Esther Tolu Yeboah. Welcome to Africa 54. Here's what's coming up. The World Health Organization says the crisis in Sudan could worsen in the coming months as the distribution of humanitarian aid and medical supplies remains restricted. Non-profit organizations propose the use of newly arrived migrants to address a shortage of construction workers in the United States. And in our entertainment report, VOA's own Tolu Yeboah, known by her stage name TolumiDe, joins Heather Maxwell to sing her most recent release, Throwback. All this and much more coming up on today's Africa 54. The World Health Organization says the crisis in Sudan could worsen in the coming months due to the distribution of humanitarian aid and medical supplies remaining restricted. War erupted in Sudan on April 15, 2023, between the Sudanese army and the paramilitary Rapid Support Forces. The conflict has devastated the country's infrastructure, prompting warnings of famine and displacing millions of people inside and outside the nation. The United States has had numerous conversations about the conflict with countries in the region, including asking them to encourage Iran not to engage, according to U.S. Ambassador to the United Nations, Linda Thomas-Greenfield. Thomas-Greenfield spoke about the situation in Sudan.
Should the SAF not reverse course immediately, the Security Council must intervene to ensure life-saving aid is delivered and distributed, including, if necessary, through a cross-border mechanism. What's more, we must continue urging the warring parties to stop the fighting and get back to the negotiating table, as well as urge those outside supporters prolonging this conflict and enabling these atrocities to stop sending weapons to Sudan. With all of the countries who have been identified as possibly fueling this conflict, we have had direct conversations with every single one of them to press them to cease their support and fueling of this war. They've been named in the press. We've seen the Emiratis be named in the press. We've seen Egypt be named in the press. There are others who have been identified in the press as well. And with all of them, we have constant engagements. And I know that Tom has had those engagements as well.
6 Iranian sources, regional officials and diplomats who, like the army's source, asked not to be identified because of the sensitivity of the information, says the Sudanese army has acquired Iranian-made unmanned aerial vehicles over the past few months. It is 1-year anniversary of the war in Sudan, and an estimated 9 million people have fled their homes, while 18 million people are facing acute hunger. Joining me now from here in Washington, D.C. is Sama Salman, a Sudanese strategic analyst and president of U.S. Educated Sudanese Association. Sama, welcome back to Africa 54. Describe the impact this war is having on Sudanese civilians and especially women.
Thank you, Esther, for having me and for keeping Sudan in the news. As you rightly described, we're now at the 1-year mark of the war in Sudan, and this is a really tragic day for us as Sudanese. 2 generals in Sudan have created the largest man-made humanitarian crisis in Sudan, in the world. There are 5 different crises that they've created. In Sudan, we currently have the largest displacement crisis in the world. As you stated, 9 million Sudanese have now been displaced both internally and externally. The second crisis is the humanitarian crisis. The UN humanitarian chief has said that Sudan is the most dangerous place in the world for humanitarian workers, and we've seen more than 30 die in the year that this war has been ongoing. The third is the protection and security crisis. Today, between 7 and 9 million Sudanese women are at risk of rape and sexual and gender-based violence. The fourth is the hunger crisis. You talked about the looming famine. The famine is already on our doorstep. and between 8 and 10 million Sudanese are currently at risk of starvation in the next few months. And finally, this is a children's crisis. We have 19 million Sudanese children out of school. So this is also an educational crisis.
So, Sama, given the kind of dire situation you're giving, how are state institutions faring?
Well, this is basically a situation where you have all the features of a failed state. I mean, you're talking about a country that is now being governed by men with guns. It's not being governed by the rule of law. You have a country where water, power, and internet outages are now becoming the norm. The country is now on the verge of economic collapse. I mean, basically, mutual aid organizations, community-based organizations, emergency rooms, frontline responders, and diaspora remittances. Mm-hmm. This is the lifeline that is keeping people alive, mm-hmm. that is giving people some access to one meal a day for many. That's become the reality for many families. Many government workers haven't received a salary in more than 6 months. Many companies in the private sector have gone out of business completely.
So is there hope that the two men fighting, Hemeti and al-Burhan, can meet and say, this is it, we need to negotiate and end this war?
This is what we'd like, and this is what, you know, Ambassador Greenfield and Ambassador Perriello are working on, along with other interlocutors. What we've said time and time again is that there are flagrant violations of the arms embargo in Sudan. And as long as there are external actors who are continuing to supply both belligerents with weapons, they will continue to fuel this war. And so what we'll continue to see is a prolongation of the war as long as countries, whether that's neighboring countries in the region or outside of the region, continue to supply both General Abdel Fattah al-Burhan and General Hemeti with weapons. And so we do call on, you know, the UN Security Council to hold accountable those countries that are violating the Sudan and Darfur arms embargo.
Sama, many thanks for your insight into this. Sama Salman is a Sudanese strategic analyst. Niger State Television says Russian military instructors are in Niger after arriving with a plane loaded with military equipment. Their arrival is due to an agreement between Niger's military junta and Russian President Vladimir Putin. State Television aired video of a military cargo plane being unloaded as people in fatigue stood by. Russia has agreed to install an anti-aircraft system in Niger. And since its July 2023 coup, the military junta that seized power in Niamey has evicted French and European forces and quit the Economic Community of West African States regional bloc. Like the military in neighboring Mali and Burkina Faso, it has also strengthened military ties with Russia. South Africa's Electoral Commission says that it has appealed to the High Court to rule on whether former President Jacob Zuma can run in a general election in May. It is the latest twist in legal wrangling over the eligibility of the 81-year-old who is fronting Umkhonto weSizwe, a new opposition party that has become a potential upsetter in the May 29th election. Meanwhile, unemployment continues to be a major problem in South Africa, particularly among the youth. VOA's Paul Ndiho spoke with Mundia Paul Hakola, a political analyst in Lusaka, Zambia, about the situation.
This election will be tightly contested, and it will not be as usual as it has been, where we have the ruling party having the landslide or the kind of landslide that they have been able to have. We are of the view that this time around, the way things have been moving, the number of fundamental issues that have happened on the ground, and surely they shall also have some votes that will be, the opposition will be able to get some votes and some seats. As you can see, from the time of independence up to now, it has been a trend where they have been slowly losing seats, a number of seats, and as we go further, in years to come, or is it now, we're not sure, it will also be an issue to do with the president. Because they've had one ruling party from the time of independence. But as you can see, that there are a number of concerns, among the people, the population, dissatisfaction on a number of issues. Socio-economic issues are very pertinent in South Africa, and those are things that are, even if you want to hold on, you are able to see, people would be able to say maybe we try this side or we try this side. So gaining the ground, as years are going, they are losing that ground that is there.
There are a lot of young people who argue that the ANC hasn't done much for them, especially young black people. When you drive around South Africa, when you crisscross that country, you see a lot of young people hurting. Even though these are people who are born free, people who should be part and parcel of the current economic situation, of the political environment, but they have not benefited from that. How would you respond to that?
There has been a lot of desperation among the South African youth, and that has been noted by a number of activities that have happened over the years. Activities that have also caused some regional instability. Sometimes you have seen them having all these issues where there is a level of insecurity among their brothers that are coming from Zambia and other African countries, which they end up being attacked because they are of the view that the opportunities that are there, they are very minimal and they need to go to them. So there is need to actually have a progressive kind of development program that is going to actually empower the South African youth. I think on the issue of truth and reconciliation, they've done well in terms of ensuring that they've dealt with their past and so forth. But on the issue to do with the economic emancipation of the people, there has to be something like that, where they have an endeavor, they have an inquiry of how really do they want to go on the path of empowerment. For South Africa, it has to be more inclusive because it comes in an issue where it brings out a bit of instability in the region and within the country, so that they're able to also hear from the common man, from the common woman, from the people there on what kind of track do they expect them to be empowered.
Undia Paul Hakula is a political analyst based in Lusaka, Zambia. Reproductive rights are again at the forefront of the U.S. presidential campaign as Republican candidate Donald Trump distances himself from an Arizona Supreme Court decision to ban most abortions in the state. VOA correspondent Scott Stearns has our story.
This was a week when Donald Trump sought to lay out a position on restricting abortion that stops short of a nationwide ban backed by some prominent members of his party.
The states will determine by vote or legislation or perhaps both, and whatever they decide must be the law of the land, in this case, the law of the state.
The next day, Arizona's top court said an 1864 state law that bans nearly all abortions, even in cases of rape or incest, can still be enforced. Trump said that state decision goes too far.
You know, it's all about states' rights, that'll be straightened out. And I'm sure that the governor and everybody else are going to bring it back into reason, and that will be taken care of, I think, very quickly.
Arizona's Governor Democrat Katie Hobbs moved quickly to block county attorneys from prosecuting women and doctors who provide abortions.
I refuse to allow extremist county prosecutors to use this abortion ban to lock up women and doctors seeking or providing needed health care. Second, my administration has expanded access to over-the-counter contraceptives.
In Florida, the state Supreme Court has allowed a law banning abortions beyond 6 weeks of pregnancy to take effect next month. Trump's trying to reassure voters that states will change those unpopular decisions, while reminding them that he's the one who ended federal abortion protections.
We did that. It was an incredible thing, an incredible achievement. We did that, and now the states have it, and the states are putting out what they want. It's the will of the people. So Florida's probably going to change. Arizona's going to definitely change. Everybody wants that to happen. And you're getting the will of the people. It's been pretty amazing.
A statement from President Joe Biden's campaign says Donald Trump owns the suffering and chaos happening right now, including in Arizona, because he proudly overturned federal protections for abortion. Arizona is an important swing state in this presidential election, where supporters of abortion rights said last week that they have enough signatures to include on the November ballot a measure that would put abortion rights in the state constitution. Arizona Congressman Greg Stanton, a Democrat, believes his state and the nation are at a turning point on abortion.
This November, in Arizona, safe and legal abortion access will be on the ballot. And people won't walk. They will run to the polls in Arizona. And they'll come out in force to elect candidates who truly, consistently, and sincerely support abortion rights at every level of government, especially here in Congress.
Similar ballot initiatives in Kansas and Ohio over the past 2 years were losing propositions for Republicans. Scott Stearns, VOA News.
The U.S. is in dire need of construction workers, and nonprofits argue that the newly arrived migrants that have overwhelmed some American cities in recent months could help. But not everyone agrees. Jyoti Rekhi reports from New York.
It's a Tuesday morning at La Colmena Staten Island Community Job Center. The New York City nonprofit helps immigrant workers gain job training.
No están las barandas, entonces no se alcanza a divisar si tienen los arnés para estar en ese.
20-year-old Ecuadorian Marilyn Biamar is among a handful of new arrivals, chosen from a lengthy wait list for construction site safety training. New York City regulations require the classes. La Colmena says they normally cost between $600 and $1,000, but the organization offers them for free and in Spanish.
This program has helped me by giving me an opportunity. I'm going to enter to get a job in construction.
The construction industry will have to bring in more than 500,000 additional laborers in 2024 to meet demand, according to the trade group Associated Builders and Contractors. That's on top of the industry's normal pace of growth of around 200,000 to 300,000 workers per year.
The pandemic induced many people to retire prematurely, and not enough inflow from younger workers, younger people into the construction trades. You're going to have a structural shortfall.
A shortfall that La Colmena believes migrants can help address.
Our community is eager to go to work, to move into the workplace and do better for themselves.
But Cepeda says the nonprofit needs federal or state funding to continue providing the training for free to the growing number of migrant applicants.
I think it's a win-win for everybody and should be an investment at the state level. I think it might even address some of the concerns that the state has about spending money in social services. If people have jobs, then they can afford other things.
But some local politicians believe that spending taxpayers' money on newly arrived migrants is unfair to American citizens.
I don't see how anybody in their right mind thinks that's a good policy for the United States. It's not good here. And yeah, I get it. There are people who want to work, but there are a lot of people who are American citizens who want to work too. Let's try to help them.
Mayor Eric Adams says New York City is poised to spend more than $12 billion through June of 2025 to mitigate the asylum seeker crisis. Fasella says that's unacceptable.
When we first asked for an estimate more than a year and a half ago, the estimate was going to be about $500 million to accommodate the migrant crisis in New York City. Now they're estimating $12 billion in just a year and a half, which translates to about $143,000 per migrant per year.
Experts in the construction industry, however, share La Colmena's sentiment that an investment in newcomers to America is an investment in the future.
When you've got a massive national debt and you've got a lot of potential workforce in the country, you need to start thinking about using that potential workforce more effectively.
Most experts say the initial cost for migrant integration in a community can be high, but the long-term social and economic benefits often outweigh those investments. Jyoti Rekhi, VOA News, New York City.
Still to come, VOA's own Tolu Yeboah, known by her stage name TolumiDe, joins Heather Maxwell to sing her most recent release, Throwback. We'll be right back.
When it comes to the entertainment business, it does not get any bigger than Disney.
Leaving an indelible print on networks including BET, ABC, and CNN.
Robert has always been about helping people.
If somebody tells you that there's no bias in the industry, they'd be lying.
Robert takes any and everybody that works for him under their wing.
And we had a pretty young staff at BET. They were very talented. I think the average age back then was in and around 25 years old.
Giving young people opportunities, helping them to discover pathways.
Every day I try to take advantage of being here on Earth and doing something positive because I know I was given another chance.
In other news, political parties and civil society groups in Mali are rejecting the governing military junta's order to suspend political activities. They are vowing to mount a legal challenge to what one opposition politician called, quote, a dictatorial move by the junta. Colonel Assimi Goita has led the military rulers since a coup in 2020. A bipartisan group of senators are introducing a bill to renew the U.S. trade pact with sub-Saharan Africa ahead of its expiration next year, according to an aide to one of the senators. The bill would renew the African Growth and Opportunity Act for 16 years through 2041 and help African countries implement strategies to take advantage of the program. And Ukraine inaugurated an embassy in Ivory Coast on Thursday, one day after opening an embassy in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Kyiv is seeking a greater presence in Africa to counter Russian influence. In Abidjan, embassy representative says Ukraine is also planning to open embassies in Ghana, Mozambique, Botswana, and Rwanda in the near future. It's time for Entertainment Report, and Heather Maxwell has a special guest who is going to perform for us in the studio. Hello, Heather.
Hi, Esther. Hello, everyone. Yes, that's right. I have Tolu in the house with me. Yes. Hi, Tolu. It's great to have you on. You look beautiful.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be here. Yes.
So tell us about your work by day as a graphic artist.
Well, I studied fine arts in university in Canada, and you know, while I was doing that, I decided to start specializing in computer graphics and graphic design, and so I've really been in the TV industry doing graphics for quite a few years. I would say, you know, 20 plus years.
Right, right. But now,
happy to be here.
But
you know, now doing graphics at VOA. So.
Yes. How long have you been doing that at VOA?
Gosh, it's about 9 years actually. Okay. So it's been almost 10 years, really.
Well,
really
and then by night,
yes.
then you are a singer, so to speak.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit about your music.
Well, I call my music suya so because suya is a spicy flavor that is added to kind of like a beef kebab, or you know, pretty much anything on the grill, veggies too, and seafood and chicken. So I call my music that suya so because I feel like I'm adding some African spice, TolumiDe African spice flavor to soul music and music from the heart, music with you know, some grooves, African grooves, music to uplift, music to give you good vibes, and music about my own life, you know, as an Afropolitan, really an African that's lived in various parts of the world, lived in Lagos, lived in Toronto, now here in Washington, D.C., in Maryland region. So, yeah, I try to pretty much bring all this inspiration and my experiences in all, you know, all these different places into the music and give some soul vibes, African vibes.
And you're going to be performing in D.C. soon, but right now on Africa 54, you're going to perform Throwback?
Yes, yes.
Okay, let's get to it.
Throwback, yes.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
La 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 ayola ayola la 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 ayola me yo take take me back in time old school throwback, yeah, oh yeah, yeah, when I had no worries and I was free as a bird. Bring back the day, I reminisce on the day. Bring back the day, hanging out and playing games. Bring back the day, didn't need much money to have a good time. I bring back the day, hey, I bring back the day, and throw back to old school. Ayola, 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 A DJ, they play my jam. Oh, 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 oh. No vex if I sweat. I remember dancing in the sun. And I remember playing in the rain. The rain, the rain. I remember eating a balumo on a warm summer day. I bring back the day. I reminisce on the day. I bring back the day. Hanging out and playing games. Bring back the day. Didn't need much money to have a good time. Bring back the day. Hey. Bring back the day. Throw back to old school. Ayola, 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 me yo. Throw back to old school. Ayola, 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 me yo. Throw back to old school. You just want to step, want to step. Let me see you want to step. Ha, no vaccine, throw back. Want to step, ha, 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 want to step. Let me see you want to step. Ha, no vaccine, I throw back. Ayola. My jam, oh, 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 no vexing, I sweat. Hey, I saw you jamming. I saw you jamming, Super
That was beautiful. Oh, thank you so much, Tolu.
I am so honored to be here.
You're going to be performing. You're going to be performing where?
June the 13th.
Oh, we got to go. At Carlisle.
Carlisle in Washington, D.C. June the 13th.
Esther, back to you. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you so much, ladies. That's our entertainment today. Join Heather Maxwell every Friday right here. Good night, everybody. Great week.